Well, I admire you, how you go about this, using the Bible and God's Word to find some wisdom in there to lose weight. That's fantastic. What I would like to talk about, we got rid of the slideshow, it was too complicated and too small, is just offer you some extra information about being smart, about knowing your own body, about how to go about reaching a plateau or just not getting any further. So, of course, the first part of things you know pretty well. You've heard about it. I follow your blog a little bit. You know, you are what you eat, and so wholesome food, of course, that's a given. You've got to eat wholesome food, and because that's where the nutrition is. And it's just a matter, it's just a fact. And the processed food is not good. It's not good for many reasons, mostly because it's empty calories and a lot of additives and chemicals. And so you want to avoid those as much as you can. That's basic stuff, and it's a little hard to do, but really, it's a habit and a lifestyle, and making fresh food on a daily basis is not that difficult. It doesn't take that much time. I mean, you can make a fresh meal, you know, in 15, 20 minutes easily. So, yeah, it becomes a habit, but it tastes so much better, and it's so much better for you. It can be easily done. And and the other thing is, you know, then you don't have to. You can only eat so much whole food, and the chore of cutting back and starving yourself becomes much less, really, because you can't really overeat on multi-grain bread or broccoli, or it's self-limiting. So there are certain things you just simply have to avoid, or you do the best you can, you know, as Alan is your leader, says, as far as organic is concerned, you know, the first step is to eat wholesome foods. And then, you know, as you get, that becomes more and more of a habit, and you integrate that into your life, you know, it's nice to do organic, and but it's another step. It's a second step. Certain things. So reading labels, of course, becomes very important. You got to read labels, and you want to avoid anything that doesn't have the name of a food. You know, especially chemicals. Some of the more common ones and toxic ones are MSG. It's a neurotoxin and a preservative. It's fairly common. High fructose corn syrup is not good, despite of what you may hear on television. The corn syrup industry is trying to, you know, propagate that it's not, but it's liver toxic stuff, and it's not sugar, it's not syrup, it's man-made. It's made from corn, but it's toxic. It's liver toxic. So you want to avoid that. It's very common. It's everywhere these days, and now they're trying to hide it as corn syrup instead of high fructose corn syrup, just to take the edge off of it. So just beware of that. Some of the most calorie loaded things are beverages, soda and things like that. I mean, you're supposed to drink water. Water is good. Water is, you can drink as much as you want. Sometimes it gets a little boring to drink water all day, and you can flavor water with all kinds of things. Even just with a spritzer of lemon, or just some juices. You can just water them down mostly. You know, you can do 80% water and 20% juice, and just for some flavor, and so on. But beverages are loaded with chemicals and calories. And the diet craze doesn't get you out of the conundrum. It doesn't help. It's even more toxic than the sugar. There may be less calories, but then you have more chemicals. And that doesn't help either. So, yeah, watch what you drink, because that's, 64 ounces a day or so. It adds up quickly. Okay. Having said that, what I want you to become aware of is that what I've learned in my clinical experience the last 20 years is that all of this stuff is really genetic. It's all about your genetics. You know, that's what God has given us. And what we want to do, what you want to do is you want to know as much about your genetic makeup as possible, because you don't want to work against your own genes. Okay, so luckily, you know, genetics has been researched. We have made great breakthroughs in genetics and analyzing what they are and what they do, and it's very fascinating. And it's more accessible to you than you may think. It's not this academic thing that only very, very super smart doctors know about, or scientists. It's very hands-on. It's very close by. So one of the most basic genetic markers or patterns is your blood type. So there's blood type O, which is the oldest blood type, which is basically the blood type of the hunters and gatherers, you know, the cavemen. I understand you've learned about the caveman diet. Obviously that's healthy, because it's wholesome. So they ate berries and they ate meat, they hunted, and they weren't farmers, so they ate anything and everything wild. And that's the blood type O. So needless to say, if you're blood type O, you wouldn't want to be a strict vegetarian because it really goes against your blood type. Blood type A is more the agrarian blood type. When, you know, the people settled down in Europe and became farmers and started growing grains and things, that's the blood type A. So if you're blood type A, you would be okay if you would want to be a vegetarian. So you don't necessarily want to eat meat every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, take it easy on the meat. You do well with grains. You're supposed to do well with grains and vegetables and so on. And then blood type B is more from, you know, the Pacific Rim, and blood type B does well with fish and so on. There are just some very basic patterns, and it's good to know about it. You can read about it. There's a book out called Eat Right for Your Type, and it's got to be now 20 years old, that book. It's good to know these things, and to be aware of it and not work against it, because you can't beat those. Those are factors that were given to you, and you have to work with them. So what I've learned is that on top of that, now, you know, we can find out what your weaknesses are in general. It's so just like, you know, meat is not necessarily the best thing for everybody. It's better for a blood type O than it is for a blood type A. So it's the same with certain nutrients, you know, certain vitamins and minerals and amino acids. Depending on your genetic makeup, some of those are better for you than others, and yet another person, it's different. They have a different variety of nutrients that are best for them. So it's good to know that. It's good to know that. So how do you find out? Well, I'll try to get to that. The other component that's very important, and I'd like you to make aware of, that there's something you can do about it, is inflammation. A lot of weight issues are caused by inflammation. It's not all fat, and even the, you know, the fat cells are not helped by inflammation. But a lot of weight is carried from inflammation, which is mostly fluid. But it's just an aberrant kind of functioning of the body. So one of the biggest triggers of inflammation are food allergies and food sensitivities, okay? So if you are even eating wholesome foods and you have a gluten allergy, for example, or sensitivity, doesn't have to be a full-blown allergy, just a sensitivity, then it's going to be very hard for you to lose that weight, because that gluten is going to keep on inflaming your body, and besides that it's hurting your joints and your muscles and making you tired or whatever, it'll just keep your body in a state of inflammation, which is going to hold on to certain weight. It's especially, if your weight is up here, like if you have this, what they, sometimes they call it the tire or so, the weight up here is your organs. So the organs actually become swollen. Your liver, your spleen, your pancreas, they become swollen, and that's from inflammation. Now, if you go to the internist or the liver doctor, so they won't be able to, they won't even recognize that. You literally have to just stand in front of the mirror, and you can see it, how the organs bulge out. They're right, underneath their rib cage here. So the only way you could starve yourself to death, and you wouldn't get rid of that. So you have to get rid of the inflammation, and the inflammation is due to things like food sensitivities. Very common. Everybody has them. Everybody that has health issues. So now, unfortunately, the orthodox medicine has no answers for these things. There's no answers for any of those issues, so they don't look for it either. So you won't get that information from your regular doctor unless it's very severe, like celiac disease and certain Crohn's disease. But even then, it's a celiac disease, they can pinpoint it to wheat. And they say, okay, you gotta avoid wheat, and that will make it better, but it won't stop it. Because it's not just wheat, it's always other food items as well. So we have discovered some techniques where we can recognize these triggers of inflammation, these sensitivities, these, I like to call them quirks, and also techniques to actually remedy them or